What is up, everybody? It's JT Sports. I'm at you guys with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the NFL's most disappointing teams from the 2019 NFL season. Now, before I get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, upload NFL videos and college football videos daily. So, this list shouldn't really have a lot of controversy, shouldn't be a lot of disagreement. This basically is a list that I made based on my expectations before the start of the 2019 season, what I was expecting out of all of these teams, and most of these teams didn't live up to those expectations, and they didn't even come close to meeting the expectations that I have for most of these teams that I have on this list. So the first team that I have on this list, I have the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, last season, in the offseason, the Cleveland Browns, general manager John Dorsey, basically reconstructed this Cleveland Browns team and basically built this Cleveland Browns team like he was doing a Madden Ultimate Rebuild. He traded for Olivier Vernon. He traded for Odell Beckham. He got all these great, talented players, but they didn't live up to the expectations. I had this team going 10-6. Competing with the Baltimore Ravens for first place. I didn't know if the Baltimore Ravens or the Browns were going to win first place, but I thought it was a good chance that both of those teams could end up competing for first place. I was wrong about that. And I also thought the Cleveland Browns were going to make it into the playoffs. I was also wrong about that. And the Cleveland Browns ended up finishing 6-10, third place in the AFC North, behind the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, let me remind you, the Pittsburgh Steelers finished ahead of the Cleveland Browns with a revolving door at the quarterback position, with a fourth-string quarterback who initially started the season out on the practice squad, without their best wide receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster, without their best player on offense in James Conner, and the Cleveland Browns still were unable to win at least 8 games behind the Pittsburgh Steelers team that was battling injuries all season. So if that isn't an indication of how big of a disappointing season the Cleveland Browns have, maybe you got to look at Baker Mayfield having a sophomore slump. Now, I came into the 2019 season with the expectation that Baker Mayfield could end up taking a giant leap in development and end up being an MVP candidate, considering the wide receivers he was throwing to. You got Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham. It doesn't get no better than that. 2 of the best wide receivers in the game. And Baker Mayfield just had a sophomore slump. So, the Cleveland Browns, first team on my list for one of the most disappointing teams in 2019. Next team that I have on my list, I have the Atlanta Falcons. Now, if you were subscribed to my channel in the offseason of last year, and you watched a couple of my prediction videos and Super Bowl contender videos, you'll see that I was very high on the Atlanta Falcons going into the 2019 season. Last year in 2018, this was a team that got the injury bug really, really bad. They lost mostly their whole entire roster, and they lost mostly all their best players. So coming into 2019, they were getting back their whole entire roster fully healthy. You was getting Keanu Neal back. Deion Jones, he was going to be back fully healthy. So, this team was fully healthy. And this, in my opinion, going into the 2019 season, was one of the most talented rosters in all of football. Where the Atlanta Falcons severely disappointed me. They went 7-9, third in the NFC South. Now, although they did have a little bit of a rejuvenation in the second half of the season, the players started to play really hard for Dan Quinn, closing out in the last couple of weeks of the season. But ultimately, this team was a big disappointment, considering the fact that I thought the Atlanta Falcons were a Super Bowl contender. And Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, at one point Mohamed Sanu before he got traded, Austin Hooper, who quietly was a Pro Bowler last year in 2019. Matt Ryan, who was a top 10 quarterback. Devontae Freeman. On the defense side of the ball, you got stars as well. So, it's just the fact that the Atlanta Falcons didn't even compete for a playoff spot. It's just really disappointed me. So, they finished 7-9, third place in the NFC South. Next up, I have the second NFC South team on this list. I have the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Carolina Panthers, I had them going 9-7. The beginning of the 2019 season. Now, a lot of Carolina Panthers fans, they bashed me, they criticized me, they said I knew nothing about football, they said I weren't giving the Carolina Panthers the credit they deserve, and surprisingly, I had the Carolina Panthers making it into the playoffs with a 9-7 record. Well, the Carolina Panthers, not only did they fail to make it to the playoffs and finish the season out for winning record. But I mean, this was a team that at one point was one of the best teams in all of football. And I was like, okay, maybe this Carolina Panthers team might end up being a lot better than what I expected. And then the Carolina Panthers, like they did in 2018, started out very hot. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got blown out by Pittsburgh on Thursday night, and their season went downhill from there. Well, similar story to how this season went. The Carolina Panthers, even without Cam Newton, they started off hot. A lot of people thought Kyle Allen was going to end up being a franchise guy for Carolina. They ended up playing the San Francisco 49ers. They ended up getting embarrassed, and their season went downhill from there, and they finished last place in the NFC South Division. The next team that I have on this list, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, out of all the teams I have on this list, this is probably one of the most unlikely teams that I would expect to disappoint me. The LA Chargers basically had their entire roster from last season. Not really any notable losses, in my opinion. Besides, if you want to say they lost Hayward. But other than that, I thought this team was pretty good. You got a top 10 coach and Anthony Lynn, in my opinion. His coaching staff was very good last year. I thought he should have won NFL Coach of the Year in 2018. They made great adjustments. And they ended up finishing 5-11, fourth place in the AFC West behind the Oakland Raiders and the Denver Broncos. Now, if you were to tell me you were going into this season expecting the LA Chargers to finish with a worse record than the Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders, you probably would have been telling me that you were smoking meth or you were doing crack cocaine. Because looking at this team, it was no reason why this team could not compete with the Kansas City Chiefs going into this season. And I'm really surprised. But a big reason why is because Phillip Rivers, we started to see a little bit of decline in Phillip Rivers. His play was a big reason why the LA Chargers finished with a 5-11 record. And I'm not going to put all the blame on Phillip Rivers, but he deserves a majority of the blame on his shoulders. Now, the offensive line didn't play that good, and it's really surprising to me because this offensive line, I thought with getting Forrest Lamp back fully healthy for the first time in his career, this offensive line would be even better than what they were last season. But this offensive line took a major step back. This offensive line wasn't really as good as it was last season. So, I mean, this LA Chargers team was a big disappointment. It's probably one of the biggest disappointments of the NFL season on this whole entire list. I'll probably put them number 2. Now, the next team I have on this list, I have the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Los Angeles Rams went 9-7. They finished 3rd place in the NFC West. Now, a lot of people had a speculation that the LA Rams would decline in production, not because of the Super Bowl hangover and things like that, because they lost New England and things like that, but they also had the questions about Todd Gurley and his stats with his arthritis and his knee and things like that. And I told everybody, the LA Rams, you guys should just believe in the media, hyping things like that. Todd Gurley's going to be fine. This LA Rams team is going to be fine. Well, I was wrong. This was an LA Rams team that lost to Tampa Bay. Their defense, that was the game when we thought Jameis Winston had arrived. Then you get embarrassed by the 49ers. The 49ers beat the Rams so bad they forced the LA Rams to do a mid-season rebuild in the middle of the season. I promise you, I'm not lying. After they lost to the 49ers, which it wasn't really a blowout, but they pretty much got dominated by the 49ers. They did a mid-season rebuild. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. They traded for a linebacker from the Baltimore Ravens. And that still wasn't enough to get them into the playoffs. And a 9-7 record by any stretch isn't necessarily bad, but it is considering the expectations that a lot of people, and myself included, have for the LA Rams, coming off from a team that is only a year removed from being in the Super Bowl. And I mean, when you look at this division, I mean, the LA Rams, talent-wise, still pretty much had one of the best rosters in the NFC West. So it was a big surprise to me. And not only is it a big surprise to me that they finished in 3rd place in the division, but just the fact that they missed the playoffs. Now, given I was expecting the NFC conference to be as good as it is what it was this season, but I at least thought the LA Rams will at least be able to hit double-digit wins. So, really big disappointment. The last team that I have on my list, you guys already know who it is. It is America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, look, I had the Dallas Cowboys finishing with one of the best records in the NFC, going to the NFC Championship game, and they didn't meet neither one of those expectations or goals. They finished with a mediocre record, 8-8. and second place in the NFC East. And it's just a big surprise to me, but it's not really a big surprise to me because a lot of people fail to realize that you have to have a good coach. It doesn't matter how good of a roster you have. The Dallas Cowboys have a top 5 roster. That's without a debate. That's without a question. But coaching matters. And this season for the Dallas Cowboys is a great example of why coaching in the NFL matters. You see, Jason Garrett was a below average coach. And anytime you have a coach that isn't good, it's going to affect the play of your team. And it doesn't matter how good of a team you may have. If you don't have a good coach, you're not going to win a lot of games. And that's a good example of how this Dallas Cowboys season went. They went 8-8. They started the season out strong. Then they lost a surprising game to the New York Jets. And pretty much their season went pretty much downhill from there. So this is it for my most disappointing teams from the 2019 NFL season. Let me know if you agree with this list. Let me know if it's some teams that I missed. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.